Hey there, Titans. Today we're going to be talking about how to configure a Salesforce Lightning Web component in Titan Web. Let's get started. So I have a web project here where I'm bringing in contacts, and we'll just take a look at our mapping. We're bringing in contacts that sit under a specific account ID, which I'm getting from a variable here. And what I want is for this to sit on my account record and bring me the contacts that are under the account record where this Lightning Web component is sitting. So first of all, how do we configure Lightning Web component? We're going to come over to here to user access, and we're going to tick off Salesforce Lightning Web component. Once we click on our gear icon, we'll have some configuration options. So we'll talk about use Salesforce session in 1 second. It's very important. But first, we want to talk about our ability to map the record ID to a specific variable on our project. So in this case, I'm mapping the record ID from the account page to my variable record ID, and then my power table will be able to bring contacts that are specific to that account. We also have the option to map the user ID, and that's only if we have session enabled, which we'll again talk about in a second. And that way we can bring in data from our user as well, using a get based on his ID. So what is use Salesforce session? What Salesforce session does is it allows us to use the current user's session so that, let's say, he updates a contact on our power table, or he creates a record, anything like that, we will see that the created by or the updated by will be from that specific user instead of our integration user. So again, if we have the session on, so all the actions are really happening from the current user who's looking at this Lightning Web component. Now, another thing to note is that that user needs the right permissions. So for example, if the user using our Lightning Web component doesn't have permissions to update contact, he won't be able to do so if this is on, because we'll use the session from that user and we'll also be using his permissions. If this isn't on, then it will be using the integration user. So we're going to tick it on, and I'll show you some examples of what will happen if we leave this on and how this will work. We're also mapping user ID, you can see here, and just to demonstrate that we can bring data from our user because of that, I also have a get here running that's bringing in our user ID based on, that's bringing in our user based on our user ID that's being mapped to our variable. And we're going to bring into the welcome message just a custom message, hello, and the name of the current user, just to show that we can bring in data from the current user who's looking at our Lightning Web component. We need to publish in order for this to work. Let's go over to Salesforce now. We'll edit page, and we'll add our Lightning Web component in Salesforce. So this can be put anywhere in Salesforce, community, your home page, a specific account, a specific record. Here we're doing it on account, and I'm going to add it as a tab. Let's do, I think we need custom here, and we'll name it contact. Now we have our contact tab, and then here's the important part. We'll come over here to Lightning Web component, and we'll drag that in. And once we have our component in, all we need to do is grab our URL from our web project, our published URL, and throw that in here. We'll click save. Of course, you need to activate and make sure that if you want everyone to have it, whatever permissions for activation you want. And as you can see, I've got my Lightning Web component here. So let's go back. And if I head under contact, now I see all of my contacts that are under this specific account. And that's because we were able to pass the account ID to my project. You'll also notice I have my my current user. We have his full name over here, and that's because we brought that in using the user ID. Now, we talked about the Salesforce session and what happens when we have a Salesforce session on here. and maybe some of the risks that you might run by having a Salesforce session. So let's log out of this user and log into a user that does not have permissions to edit the contact. So I'll go over here and I'll do other user. Try again. Awesome. And now if I head over to my account, so he's able to see this, and of course we have the new user's name here. And if I want to actually update something on my contact, so I'll just try to update this, and I should be getting an error message, and that's because I don't have permissions to actually update this contact. Now, if I log out again and go back to a user that does have permissions, head over to my account, and let's go ahead and update one of these contacts here. And as you can see, I did not get an error. And if I come over to my contacts over here, let's just open this in a new tab. I can see, first of all, that my contact has been updated. And I can also see, and this is another part of the Salesforce session, is that this was modified by not my integration user, but my current user who's currently logged in. So again, all we really need to do is tick off Salesforce Lightning Web Component, decide if we want that session or not, or if we just want to be using it from our integration user. We'll map our record ID so that we can pull in relevant data or push back with relevant data. And we can also, if we like, map our user ID if we want to get data from our user as well. So that's how it's done, and enjoy it.